Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Bold and beautiful backfire. A broken relationship is finally healed only to be blown to bits all over again. Relationships have been torn apart on Bold and Beautiful over accusations and miscommunications. But for two characters, this week we'll see their rift healed and the love between them restored, even as new information is poised to come to light that will torpedo the truce for good. As turmoil reigns at Forrester Creations since Hope and Carter's takeover, Steffi's plate has been full to overflowing as she endeavors to wrest control of her family's company back from the clutches of the Logan camp. But she's not so focused on strategizing with Parisian pal Daphne that she hasn't noticed something is very off with her handsome hubby. Finn, of course, is reeling from the shocking discovery that he fathered double murderer Luna, previously thought to be his cousin, with his Aunt Poppy 20-something years ago. Making it 1,000 times worse is the fact that Finn's cousin/daughter caged and tried to kill his wife mere months ago. Steffi's bound to be horror-stricken when he finally spills his guts, but they're not the only ones who will be affected. On the other side of the coin, Finn's mother Lai, who suspected all along that her sister Penelope had an affair with her husband Jack, and that Luna was his daughter, recently discovered she was wrong. After treating Poppy like dirt for decades, Lai is set to make things right with her sibling and heal the deep rift between them. Finally, the Nozawa sisters will embrace the love between them once again after so much time and so many hurtful exchanges. Unfortunately, the truce is set to be short-lived. Even if Finn decides to keep the stunning secret he's hiding from his wife a bit longer, as we know all too well, it will come out one way or another because this is a soap opera. Once it does, all hell is set to break loose. The reveal may not only prove to be one hurdle too many for Steffi to leap in order to stay in her marriage, but it will blow Lai and Poppy's newfound sisterhood completely to bits, beyond all repair. Lai is going to lose her mind and lash out in ways that will make her previous tirades look like a walk in the park in comparison. Not only will Lai be dealing with a shock beyond all imagination, with the protective mama bear in her brought roaring to the surface, but the gut instincts she was recently made to feel deeply ashamed about will be vindicated. And that's a heck of an emotional roller coaster to ride. Lai was right about her suspicions regarding Poppy all of this time. She just had it slightly wrong, and when she finds out that what happened with Poppy involved her 18-year-old son, we fear her sister won't be safe anywhere, let alone in Los Angeles. Bold and beautiful backfire. A broken relationship is finally healed only to be blown to bits all over again. For the longest time, it felt like the end of the world. A romance that once burned with passion and endless possibilities was now in ashes, scattered across the years. They had been through it all, or so they thought: betrayal, misunderstandings, lies, and near certain destruction. But somehow, after months of silence and uncertainty, they found their way back to each other. At first, it felt like a miracle. Their reunion was like the slow mending of a fractured bone, the kind of healing that required patience and care. Both of them had done the work. They'd gone to therapy, faced their demons, apologized, and rebuilt trust in a way that was foreign yet strangely familiar. The scars were still there, but they had stopped bleeding. It was almost like starting over. New routines, new boundaries, new promises. But with all the pieces now back in place, the question lingered in the air like a storm cloud. Would it last? There was a cautious optimism between them, something they hadn't felt in a long time. They spoke in softer tones, laughed a little more easily, and slept soundly with the comfort of knowing the other was still there. The walls, once towering between them, were crumbling. Trust had been earned once again, but trust is a delicate thing, and something inside of them both remained unsure, perhaps even afraid. But things weren't as perfect as they seemed. The ghosts of their pasts still wandered in the background, just out of sight but never too far away. Sometimes, a stray comment would strike a chord, an old joke would hit a nerve, or a memory they hadn't fully processed would come rushing back like a tidal wave. They tried to pretend everything was fine. The laughter, the touch, the promises. It all masked the underlying tension that was never fully resolved. In the quiet moments when no one was watching, they both grappled with the question that lingered unspoken. How long would it last? Was this the real thing, or was it just an illusion? A fragile moment of peace before everything fell apart again. It was at one of these moments that it happened. The incident, the one that would change everything again. It started innocently enough. A simple misunderstanding, something that could easily be overlooked. But like a spark catching dry wood, it quickly ignited into a raging fire. Words were said that couldn't be taken back. The past, buried for so long, was suddenly alive, each hurt and wound rushing to the surface as if time had not passed at all. Their voices were raised, tempers flaring, and in that moment, all the progress they had made seemed like nothing but a cruel joke. The walls between them went back up, higher and stronger than before. But this time, they weren't just walls. They were fortresses. There was too much damage, too much history to repair. The trust they had so painstakingly rebuilt crumbled, unable to withstand the weight of old wounds and new frustrations. At that moment, it was as if they were standing on opposite sides of an insurmountable chasm. They couldn't reach each other, and yet they couldn't stop the hurt that filled the space between them. Everything they had worked for was suddenly meaningless. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling, but the words felt final, the weight of them hanging in the air like a heavy fog. He didn't respond at first, too stunned by the sudden shift. He had thought they were stronger now. He had believed they were invincible, that nothing could break them once they'd mended what was broken. But the universe, as it often does, had a way of showing them otherwise. He looked at her, his eyes searching for something. An apology, a hint that this wasn't the end. But it was there, in the way she looked back at him, a hardness that hadn't been there before. She had given him all she could, and now it wasn't enough. The days after were filled with an emptiness that neither of them had expected. The space between them grew, and neither was willing to cross it. There was too much pride, too much pain, and far too many unspoken words to bridge the gap. They tried to carry on as if nothing had happened, but the damage was too deep. They couldn't unfeel what had been felt, unsee what had been seen. It was a slow, painful realization that maybe, just maybe, they had reached the point of no return. They had tried. They had fought so hard for this love, for this second chance. But life, as it often does, had pulled the rug out from under them, leaving them gasping for breath. What was once a healing wound had now become a gaping hole in their hearts, one that no amount of time or effort could fix. They were no longer the people who had come together so long ago. They had changed, grown apart in ways that couldn't be undone. In the end, they parted ways once more, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't a decision made in anger or rage, but in quiet acceptance. They both knew that their love had run its course, that it was time to let go. They had given it everything, but it wasn't enough. The love that had once been their salvation was now the thing that pulled them apart. And so they went their separate ways, with broken hearts, but with a quiet understanding that sometimes love isn't enough to overcome the weight of the past. They would always remember the good times, the joy they had shared, and the brief moment when everything seemed perfect. But in the end, they both knew that sometimes healing wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something else, something they hadn't been prepared for. The backfire was inevitable. The love, once so strong, had been blown to bits once again.